be okay online. This is Neil Bronstein. I'm sitting in for Christina, who's out of the office. PRC item by Jefferson. Coming in a second.
So this is 2015 East Jefferson. This is the preliminary plan and site plan application. The original came in for the sketch plan, I think, back in this year.
January.
So essentially, we worked out a lot of the design and layout at that time. Appreciate the applicant staying consistent with that layout and design, because we definitely worked out a lot of, spent a lot of time and effort doing that. And I think, you know, if you can see from our comments, there are essentially tweaks to that design that's expected with the preliminary plan and site plan applications. Just for reference for everybody else, this 86 townhouses, so a combination of 3 different widths, 14 wide, 20 wide, 24-foot wide, front loaded along the, I guess you could say, the perimeter of the rear. They'll provide the conservation easement, the access trail north and south. That was part of the master plan requirements. I think at this stage, we'll turn it over to the applicant to kind of highlight, you know, the elements of the comments that y'all think is most important for this time frame. And then, of course, we'll happy to set up any additional meetings to kind of work out some of the other stuff that's more detailed to certain comments, whether it's urban design, transportation, fire rescue, things like that. So
Mike Goodman's going to take the lead with FICO, but before we do that, there's a new face at the table. Greg Russ is with Tri-Point Homes. Since we had the sketch plan approval, Tri-Point Homes has been brought into the project, and they're going to be the ones building it. So we're excited about that, because now, you know, they know exactly how to build these units, and but Mike, take it through.
Yeah, so I do think just to start off with, we do want to get a few meetings squared away. We did get the stormwater concept comments previous, so I contacted Sherry Mitchell over there, and we have a meeting set up to go over some of their comments next week. So I think we don't need to go into those comments this morning unless you guys have anything. Another one I feel like we probably need to touch base with is Marie. I don't think there's anything largely significant where we were concerned, but we do know that that's often the best way to get squared away. So Marie, if you're listening, we're going to be looking for a time over the next week or so to meet with you.
Okay, I look forward to your email.
All right, thank you. And then otherwise, I think we just need a couple meetings with the appropriate staff, one on just general site design, There were some layout comments as well as the open space and the roads. And like you say, they're generally more minor in nature, just trying to squeeze some more items into the site. And we've got some thoughts and ideas kind of brewing already on how we might accomplish that. And then, I think we just need to get one on architecture in general to make sure, because as Bob said, Tri Point's on the team now, and they're going to want to be able to start getting a little bit more acquainted with what you're looking for architecture.
Yeah, sure, Mike. So if you just give us some time, I can set up a meeting with Paul, myself, and Atul, and your partner. So we can talk about the layout. I think we had some quick sketches for what we think that the open space should look like, but we are more than happy to talk further about it. And then we had some minor comments on the elevations on those sticks, 20s and 24s.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful to meet in person, with the plans there and
Sure.
and brainstorm a little bit. That's probably the priority is amongst all the issues to be discussed, is to make sure we get the site layout right. So I would hope
Is that coordinating with you, Natasha, for the site layout, or would that be for you, Troy?
Troy, however you want.
We have a standing meeting that's just available, post DRC, like next Tuesday. I think it's on every calendar that's just available, to meet if that works. If you wanted to do great.
Yeah.
What time?
So there's a block during that time for all the agency participants. So if you couldn't just email Troy with an agenda, and do you have Emily Ballmer's contact information?
I've gotten emails from her, so I'm sure. Yeah.
So she's the one who puts together those meetings.
Okay. And it might be best, like, that we do try to bifurcate it a little bit, one with the site layout, one with the architecture. If we can touch it all, I feel like the site layout one is the one that has some more push and pull that we need to figure out still. Where the architecture, I feel like it might be one that, it doesn't need, like, I don't know if DOT would want to be involved or some of the other agencies.
Yeah, so if you can just, with your agenda, just put which participants you want from the agency side. So the meeting is supposed to be a convenience for you.
That's Tuesday, the 27th.
Yes. And I think the block is, I can look at my calendar here. I think the block is like 9:30 to 2.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Is that new?
It's relatively new, yeah, in the last couple of months following that DRC retreat last fall, I think is when we rolled that out. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a good idea that came out of that brainstorming session
Yeah,
that
just
you all
trying to
had.
find a common
Yeah.
time for everybody to get together.
I think just on a few items that maybe we could touch base on in advance of that maybe would free up some other folks, the comments. There was a few comments, and I'm just hitting it based on the list I got here, not in importance or anything, but there's a few comments on the curb radii that we've proposed. We've got 30-foot curb radii. That's my understanding for what the fire and rescue requires.
I think
And
we had the internal meeting with Marie, and she said she can feel like she can work with the smaller radii, 20 or 25.
25,
25, yeah.
okay,
So where you 20 feet of pavement, median 20 feet of pavement, the minimum intersection radius is 25 feet. Where you have a bend in the access path, interior radius is 30. So where you have full intersections, you can take those to 25 feet without a problem.
I gotcha. Okay. So like in the corners, in that one corner, for example, that one would need to be 30-foot interior radius, but when it's a intersection, those radii can go down to 25.
Correct.
All right, cool. There was some comments about the material for the path that was referenced, but we didn't see anything, and sometimes it's hard to find everything in E-plans, but is there something that you could send us what the material for the path should be?
Yeah, we're coordinating with the parcel M development to the south and really getting on the same page with parks, but it's probably gonna be some type of mulch is what we're like landing on right now. There's going back and forth on what that should be, but it was just more so about being consistent, letting you know that we're looking for some type of surface, but actually matching it up with parcel M. And since I think parcel M is moving a little bit faster, we're whatever it is.
Is that the one with the daycare?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and that was one of the other questions was just, we didn't see anything when we looked at the AIC online for that development to the south. Like, is there a plan that's being processed?
There is, and I think it also shows the path network, but it's DAIC might be lagging behind the E-plans submittal. Parker Smith is the lead reviewer for that one,
Okay.
so he could get you some detail on that.
Yeah, Mike, actually, I think we got a letter notifying, because they went in for a site plan amendment for that
That's right.
thing. Yeah, so there, it wasn't a detailed plan, but it's definitely up somewhere.
Yeah, there are very few changes. The path is one of the few changes, the path and the addition of a play area in the woods. The rest of it's mostly just inside the building.
I think they're running like about 2-3 weeks apart, so they're not, y'all are too much faster than theirs. So.
Okay,
Does the path, do you know off the top of your head whether their path changes? I mean, they have sort of a desired path now. Is that the location changes?
There are a few changes, and ultimately that one on parcel M, I forget exactly where it's connecting, but it is connecting in the wooded area right along your southern property line. And then it's going all the way down, and there's a bridge connection that'll go over Lux Manor down into the park.
Good.
So it'll be part of a much larger network that should really just benefit your residents.
and did they align to the path that we were proposing?
I think it's a little bit deeper in the woods, so there might need to be a little bit of a deviation there to meet up.
Okay. And is that something that we should show connecting down to them, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so we can get the plans to you.
Okay, well, I can contact Parker. I just wanted to more make sure, we decide like, hey, you guys do want to keep that forested buffer in the back
We'll
for
have
that
to clear
culvert
it
width,
there for, yeah.
or
Well,
if it's,
a natural surface path is allowed in a conservation easement. So we have that condition all over the county. And a lot of times we field locate the exact location that it's shown on the plan, then we field locate it to avoid trees.
okay. And so that would be maybe just a note we add to the plan to field locate the
It's-
path.
On the forest conservation plan, there would be a note, so the construction detail would be there, which it's not really construction, but okay, the mulch
Right.
note would be there. And also there would be a note, and it would be a condition of approval that it be field located. And in terms of your, and just to make it easy on people, we can include that as part on the certified site plan where you've got your, your sort of schedule laid out for you.
Okay. All right. So to that end, I guess what you're saying is if we're doing this mulch, we shouldn't call the path disturbance in general, right?
No, that's, unless there's some grading that has to
No, I
happen.
just want to,
then
it's
no,
all
that
pretty
is-
flat back there. I just wanted to make sure, because we did show that path as being disturbed, and so you're saying that we don't need to.
No,
Okay.
we do natural surface paths, like I said, field located. If the inspector says, oh no, let's move some brush here or something like that, that's a field call and they can handle all of that. But no LOD is required.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Mike, just so I'm clear, how much time do we have
The resubmit?
right here today?
Oh, 25 minutes.
Okay, so that's till 5:00?
Yeah.
We got 10 more minutes.
So one of the questions also was just in regards to forest conservation. I know that there's a new law that was enacted in early April. We actually submitted at the end of March. So we weren't accepted at the end of March, but we submitted. So I just wanted to clarify, when we submitted, of course, we didn't know the new regulations. So everything shows as if it's the old one. that it's not going to be the new. I just wanted to see if that's something that we should stay with the previous or.
I believe you're subject to the new law. I will check with that.
Okay.
But because it wasn't accepted, I really think it comes in under the new law because we have plans that sit for a very long time in intake sometimes, and that would just become unmanageable to try and figure out when it was uploaded. In your case, it's not, I don't think it'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, that was, I think so
Yeah.
too. Maybe the thresholds change a bit but yeah, not a big difference.
I think you should be fine.
There was another comment, moving on, sorry, just, there's another comment from Richard Brockmeyer about providing ability for vehicle interparcel connections. And I feel like that's something that we've, for the most part, provided. I didn't know if there was something additional we need to do.
No, just a note to make sure, because I know that came up at the sketch plan, so just, yeah, making sure that that's noted somehow on the plan.
So just add a note.
Yeah, if anything, I think we were asking for some public access easements on that parcel, that private road C, just so the connection between, these roads are kind of dead ending, so that if there is redevelopment, that it can connect. So we're looking for those easements to be provided at this stage.
Okay, all right. Let's see, for the driveways, there was some comments looking for longer driveways and some comments looking for shorter driveways. We feel like we would rather have the shorter driveways. We don't need to have that additional parking around the site. So we just want to keep with the minimal. We might even try to squeeze it a little bit more. There were some other comments that we can get more into the site layout discussion, but I think we're going to proceed with the shortest driveways that we feel like we can from the back of sidewalk to the house, understanding that people should not be parking in those driveways.
So, go ahead.
So if you are making it shorter, I think it's better because the way that it is now is 18 foot from curb to the garage door. So a car can still fit there and that would block the sidewalk. So we want to make it as short that not even like a car can park there. So it would be obvious that the car should be on the on-street parking or in a garage.
Okay, I mean, when we do that site, we'll show you what we think we can accomplish and you can let us know if we've got that one squared away.
So I was just going to comment on that. We have guidelines on front-loaded townhouse driveway design, and we pushed, and I know, well, Mike, I don't remember. I think you were involved in the EYA project over at Strathmore within the last year or so, the 4910 case. That one also needed longer driveways to make sure that we didn't block the sidewalk and that there was adequate parking. I think, some of the concerns that we had, even though you're within the parking ratios, was, how does somebody who lives in this neighborhood have a birthday party? There just doesn't seem to be enough flex parking, where the driveway would kind of serve that use as long as it's not blocking the sidewalk. So just something trying to anticipate future issues.
So that's a little bit in conflict, I
Yeah.
think, with what Natasha's saying. So
Right, so they're either so short that you absolutely can't get a car in there to block the sidewalk, but, I think there is a concern there about having enough parking. And so you've satisfied the parking requirements for the use. So that's a comment for your consideration.
On the plus side, I think shortening the driveway also gives you a bit of separation, so you don't have townhouses with no private open space. They don't have a yard.
Yeah, and that's definitely one that we want to address. We feel like, especially with TriPoint coming on the team, they're looking for that same kind of buffer in the back. So we're looking for opportunities to kind of squeeze the north-south dimension a little bit, And so having shorter driveways is definitely one that'll help accomplish that. Might have some shorter front yards for the front load units as well. Trying to find that balance of enough room for steps and landscaping, but also trying to accomplish some of those goals that you were looking for. So I think what we'll do is have a layout, an adjusted layout showing what we would want to propose to you guys as far as the yards and the area in the rear when we meet next Tuesday.
The other
Mike,
thing I noticed that you are pairing some of the townhomes, so those pairing always help with like having enough space to put the street trees in front of those driveways. So we definitely encourage you to use that technique more to the extent possible. If there are like a couples that they can couple them, get paired, that will definitely help with the streetscape.
Mike, this is a tool here. Just wanted to share one comment on this. I think a project that we recently took to the board in Down County that had a similar unit mix, and we had a lot of similar discussions about the front versus the back and the landscaping and the front yards was the Toll Brothers project right next to the Purple Line.
Yeah, we Bucket did that one too.
Yeah. So Josh worked on that with us, and I think that might be a good precedent for you all to look at on how to balance sort of the driveway length and landscaping and parking and things like that.
Okay. All right. Great. Again, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I know we're getting a little short. There was some comment about providing justification for private roads, and that was something that we did at sketch plan. I'm assuming those same reasons that were presented to the planning board, we would just kind of put that forward again so it gets in the discussion.
Yep, and the board at that time, I think, endorsed the private roads. I think Chair Zients specifically said, this is where private roads belong. But just because it's a subdivision finding, we just need to see it with your preliminary plan application.
Okay. I think the only other item I had in my notes that I really wanted to go over was there's a portion of Street C on the east side that we're not showing a sidewalk, and that was something that just again, looking at the site constraints and everything we're trying to accomplish here, that sidewalk didn't seem to be serving, it doesn't lead to any front doors. We felt like it was just going to add potential additional conflicts. So we left it off there. It also let us have some more stormwater management on site. So we did not propose it on the east side of Street C. But we do have the connectivity, the loop that goes all the way around. We've got it on the west side of Street C.
Yeah, so we'd like to see the sidewalk on both sides.
I just don't think it would get used.
I think it's about setting up the street in a way that is typical of a normal street. It's setting up kind of a larger circulation pattern.
Well, we understand and I'm familiar with that common request. Each case is unique in some ways. I think we'll talk about that when we get together to talk about site design. And we'll figure something out. The only go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you were going to talk about the parks?
No, public benefit points.
Yeah.
But one thing, our sketch plan proposed a real laundry list, and we think we're at 176 public benefit points. Obviously, we don't have an obligation to provide that many, and so we are going to fine tune that to put the cards on the table. I know you're desirous of a contribution for the bridge. I really don't think we need to go there, and I have no idea what that dollar amount would be anyway. Given that we're going to be so far over the minimum, even without that, when we talk collectively next, I think we're going to drill down and probably take that off the table.
Well, the public benefit points, there's certain ones in this White Flint 2 master plan area that's just required for every plan. Major public facilities is one of them. ELTs is one of them. And then, yeah, I believe those are the two like main ones, just because with the master plan requirement in the zone. So, then then most folks just use MPDUs because they're already doing the 15%. So those are the three you normally see. But we could talk more details of why like the major public facilities is required. The contribution component necessary won't go to the bridge. I think there's the parcel M is already doing that contributions, but there is a standard contribution that's been considered with all plans that came in recently through.
I'm sorry, there is a standard for the contribution, a formula of some sort?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dictate,
okay.
So-
If you find that, can you shoot it around? Because I looked and I couldn't find it, but I clearly don't have access to all that you do.
Most of the plans, like I think one of the more recent ones that's went this far was Wilgus. That had
Wilgus, yeah.
Wilgus had a
Yeah, I looked
contribution.
at that. I knew they made a payment. I didn't see it. I might have overlooked it. I didn't see a formula there. But
Is
if
it
you
a
have
per
something-
unit kind of thing?
No, it's at the find that breakdown of how they made that determination.
Okay.
Yeah, in regards of that's not it's not tit for tat, I guess. It's more of just making sure that the contribution is tied to that major public. So all projects is looked at for a school site. Once it's determined on a school site, then parks is like the next step. And so that's kind of how we've been implementing thus far with these plans.
Okay, if you can send us that, then we.
The Wilgus is the one that's
We'll discuss
that's when
that.
went as far as where y'all are at this stage.
I'm sorry, Mike, did I,
That was the one.
okay.
Sorry, Neil just directed me that we're at time.
Yep. Perfect.
I think we are good.
Okay, that's good. Bye.
So if you could reach out to Emily and we'll get that follow-up scheduled.
Will do.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, folks.
Yeah,
Have a
Hey,
good day.
good morning, everybody. Before everybody jumps off here, this is Matt Mikowski with Zoning Department of Permitting Services. I had a hand up but left a comment in the chat. It's also one that Melissa Gutos has been working on. Would like to see the development tables reintroduced back to your cover sheet for ease of reference, both for everybody down the line on this project, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Second item for DRC, Montgomery Village Marketplace in Mid-County. Applicants are here and Mid-County's here, so.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Tamika Graham. I am the lead reviewer on this project. I'm with Mid-County Planning here with a number of my colleagues that have also reviewed this plan. I am working on sharing my screen. It doesn't like coming up.
Very good.
Well, nevertheless, maybe someone else can pull it up while I'm talking, but hopefully you all had an opportunity to look through our comments. I will focus on some of our sort of big picture issues, and I can turn it over to other agencies or over to your team to talk a little bit more about your questions. But I just wanted to say from a use perspective, part of this is a change of use. In reviewing the master plan, we generally don't see any issues with it. In fact, the master plan talks about mix of uses. So we don't have concerns there. Just need to make sure that the plans reference the correct use group. The subdivision, even though you've submitted the plans concurrently, they really do need a preliminary plan and the site plan need to stand on their own. So when you resubmit, if you could include a clearer lotting plan for the subdivision, there's a lot going on with the line work. If you could just include that with no other overlays, that would be greatly appreciated. Another major issue that we have is with the transportation. I think this is likely to be a topic when we meet with you during a work session to talk a little bit more about some of the details. But for the preliminary plan, you have to meet the LATR guidelines. And so that means with respect to the deficiencies, you need to identify them and then also provide the information that's requested in association with the proportionality guide. So that means giving us the list of proposed mitigation improvements and what those cost estimates will be. And those are reviewed closely by the agencies, and we'll get some comments back to you. Regarding the circulation, thank you for everything that you wrote in the explanation, but we do need some additional information regarding your request for the elimination of the second turn lane. Again, that's probably a longer conversation to have in the work session, but we just need to see a little bit more than what you provided. Obviously we understand the issues with the pedestrian circulation and safety, and, we want the same outcomes, but we really need to look a little bit more closely at starting to eliminate previous conditions of approval. In terms of parking, the issue there is the way that it's presented. We really need some more information about what is a part of the broader shopping center, what's already existing, and then what is specifically included or required for the daycare facility and what you're proposing. It's just not clear. And if you could provide just another exhibit or something that just shows it a little bit cleanly, that would be appreciated. Some of the things that we're also considering is how the circulation will work with the pickup and drop off area. So we noted some possible conflicts with pickup and drop off, and we wanted to know if you had contemplated an alternative for the parking arrangement, perhaps back and angle parking. And if you haven't, we would definitely like you to take a look at that. And talking about pedestrian conflicts, we did, I think there were maybe a couple of comments about where we see an opportunity to enhance the pedestrian circulation. So where you have the existing sidewalk along Studwick Road, it sort of cuts off, and then you're proposing that sidewalk along the frontage of the building, and there's like a missing piece there. So we think that's an easy opportunity to address to improve the circulation, pedestrian circulation. Open space and architecture, I just wanted to remind you that staff has provided some exhibits for you to take a look at. They provide a clear explanation of what we're seeking in terms of open space enhancements. One of the major ones is related to how the proposed open space with the new lot along Stedwick could potentially connect to a potentially new open space area to the west and to the east. And so that would require the elimination of some parking. And that's, a bigger improvement. And again, we can probably talk about it in the work session, but we do have exhibits that illustrate what we mean. We think it'll provide, continuous open space along the frontage again, and also improve connectivity. Along with the open space exhibit, we also highlighted the area to the west of the building where you had the parking that sort of fronts right onto your proposed play area. And we think there's a low-hanging fruit there to obviously, bump up the tree plantings and the landscaping in that area to create a stronger green buffer between the two uses, especially since we're, talking about a play area. In terms of environmental issues, we don't have any major issues. We have confirmed that the site is eligible for an exemption, but we do want to underscore the elimination of invasive species that are shown on the plan. If you could provide the native species, and you can also find some more information within our environmental guidelines. So those are sort of big picture, major issues. If you have any questions about some of the other things I didn't mention, feel free to ask, but we're here to try to respond to whatever questions you have to help with your next submission. And before I turn it over to you, I just want to highlight the project schedule. So we do have September the 28th as a tentative date for your planning board hearing, given, that all the submittal dates are on time. The first submittal would be July 5th, so after the holiday. I know that's a little tight, but that is the date. The final submittal is July 25th. And for the agencies that are listening in, the agency letters are due August the 14th.
Morning, everybody. My name's Tim Dugan. I'm with Bean Kinney. I'm the land use attorney for the applicant. I just thought I'd run through our informal introductions a little more formally, if that's okay with you all. So in person today, I'm here, Tim Dugan. To my left is Tim Longfellow with Gutschik, Little and Weber. He's also working with folks who are probably online, or at least they're staying tight in contact, Will Newman and Keith Bennett. Chris Cavett is here from Wells and Associates. Online, Cheryl Schweiker, our architect, is on the computer there on the screen with Jarmel Kizel Architects. AJ Malpani is here, and Sabir Sen is here with us. Karen Hawks is probably online watching as well. So two-story daycare facility sure looks like a good spot. It's going to be over 30 persons. We'll clarify the accurate description in the plans like you mentioned before. Up to about 170 children, 26 teachers, some administrative staff, all of that permitted use. It's in the Montgomery Village Overlay Zone. We all know this. And so we did get a chance to study the comments that we got. We talked about them Friday in advance of the holiday yesterday and the like. And so a couple of things that you touched on that I was going to focus on a little further. And first off, when you say a work session for all of us, are you talking about doing that this week so that we could be in a position to submit by the 5th with updated plans, or what were you envisioning for your work session that you're talking about?
So we now have a standing date for our work session. So they're the week after DRC. So next week, I believe it's Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
What time?
So there's a block held, I think it's from 9:30 to 2. The best way to go about it is to work through Tamika and copy Emily Balmer. If you've got her contact information, and I can forward that on you if you don't have it.
Okay,
But basically just provide a brief agenda and which agency attendees that you'd like present.
okay,
That way we can make the best use of everybody's time.
next Tuesday,
Mhm.
okay.
And that's meant as a courtesy to you to just have a hold on all of our calendars so that we're available and you don't have to chase us down.
Okay. So a couple of things. There were comments about the facade design. Thanks for that. I think they're okay. I'll speak for Cheryl, but we all talked about this in advance, just for efficiency purposes. I'll touch on a few things about which I'm not an expert, but I can relay some information. With respect to the south facade, we would have to further reduce the transparency. We had asked for a reduction on that. That would continue. In order to track that, we're hoping that you would also support that further reduction in the transparency. If so, then the other design elements that you mentioned and the like for the facades on your exhibits, your elevation exhibits, I think we can follow that. So I will ask you to look at that and let us know, because we will be slightly reducing the south facade's transparency a little more than we offered in the first place. That's all. But it looks good. I think the facade and everything looks pretty good.
Sure. The main purpose of my comments and the exhibit that you just mentioned was to just like simplify the elevation as much as possible. So all the comments like kind of like relay on that, the whole like simplicity of the facades on 4 sides. But we are more than happy to talk about it further.
Great. Stay tuned. It looks like we can accommodate that. It doesn't pose any issues. The theater pond.
Tim, I'm sorry if I could just interrupt you, just so you know, Kevin's got his hand up from your team, Kevin Foster, whenever you want to call him in. But sorry, you mentioned theater pond, so.
Okay. So the theater pond, we have a condition from the old approvals that we are to upgrade the theater pond. Montgomery Village Foundation has engaged Gut Shipland and Weber to get the permitting for that. They've got the funding for that. This applicant owner gave $100,000 to the Montgomery Village Foundation, all of which is intended for them to proceed with doing whatever upgrades are necessary for that theater pond. We would be a tremendous interference if we were stepping into that work and the like, apart from simply having already contributed to it. We would very much like you all to recommend that you don't think that's a necessary condition of approval anymore. There's one in the preliminary plan opinion. There's also reference on, I think it's the very last page of the site plan opinion about that, which puts the requirement on us. And I'd like to have that eliminated, because we've really done everything we can to foster that. Timing wise and everything, I don't think that's going to be an issue as to when it's in place. Frankly, I think we're flowing into that pond as we speak today. Lastly, though, the deadline is that we would have to have that in place by the time we try to pull the use and occupancy permit here for this project here, all of which means that we have in the statement of justification a full set of the information, all the exhibits and everything, but we very much would like you to affirmatively advise the board that they should eliminate those conditions. They're both in the preliminary plan and the site plan. So I don't know whether you can address that now, but I very much like your thoughts.
I think it's something that we'll have to take a closer look at, but we can definitely try to have some follow-up for you next week.
Okay. All right. As you mentioned, we're going to be working with Richard for the LATR issues there. I'll steal some of Chris's thunder. There's a Clarksburg case where they had a similar low amount of mitigation costs associated with it that turned out to be kind of an impractical area for the applicant to actually install certain improvements. And I guess it's a Clarksburg project you were talking about?
Yeah, that daycare up in Clarksburg on 355 and Stringtown.
Stringfellow.
Stringfellow Road.
Is that the Goddard School? What's up there?
No, I don't think they have a user yet.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Anyway, like the payment for a childcare, the calculation comes out pretty low. Our case is about $5,000, $5,500 to say. And so we are going through the ADA and we'll come up with a list, but we didn't do the extensive list or whatever because quickly get to that 5,000. And in that Clarksburg case, we went through that. And ultimately, we just decided to, I think, make the payment because it didn't make sense to do like one ramp or one corner of an intersection. But, prior to next Tuesday, I would like to talk to you, Richard, about some of them just in general. And then we could be prepared next Tuesday to talk about this list further and any cost estimates that we want to prepare. But I would like to consider from DOT and you guys if that effort to get to $5,500, if that's a case where it just makes sense to make a payment as opposed to an improvement, unless there is that this case, everything's case by case unless there is that one that extend that sidewalk if that's easily done for 100 feet or something, whatever it is.
I think ADA ramps would be probably the top priority, and yeah, I think we just need additional information. I think preference would be to have construction of something to address the deficiencies as opposed to a payment, but I'll let DOT speak to that as well. Okay.
One last thing, and then I wouldn't want to ignore Kevin on the call. The other thing is, Wells and Associates did the traffic study for the original approval project, so they've got some background information about the projects from that point in time. So we'll be visiting what do the traffic volumes look like then? What do they look like now? And all of that in terms of that issue with respect to the volume question associated with that right turn lane onto Montgomery Village Avenue. It may be, I'm just throwing this out and you all know this, but it may be that may not be the only determination as to whether or not we would do that simply because of the volume. I always think of Warbeck Road, George Avenue, where they got rid of the right turn lane for pedestrian safety and the like and all that. But you all are very familiar with that. We'll try to revisit those many points there.
Tim, I was just for next Tuesday, we have a meeting, we could talk more about that. We have some other information from previous studies and more recent studies. And then we could look at the signal operation. I have some ideas for justification, but we could go through it in more detail when we have the work session. Great.
I'm going to just stop just for a sec. Kevin, are you still on? Can you all open up the speaker for Kevin Foster?
Yeah. Tim, I just hit the raise my hand button by accident. I didn't really have anything to talk about.
Well, it's good to know you're there. So we have a lot of different issues on the on-site parking, how that's going to be accommodated. I'm going to let Tim talk in a second. The delineation of where our property is and thus on which what can we do for this project, we'll make that clearer for you. We may have some adjustments to reflect that. That and that'll also address some of the question about the extending green space and the like. I think part of that is not on our site, as well as discussing with you the accommodation of parking spaces that we need and all of that. That's probably a longer discussion. Tim, would you be able to talk about the bike locker question?
Sure. The code's requiring that we have long-term bike parking. And I guess the question is how we accomplish that. And is it necessary for the daycare? We're looking to provide lockers as an alternative to it, just because it doesn't seem, based on what we understand the use is, that employees would be using this. So it's geared to employees and they're not using it. We're kind of going through the motions of providing facility inside the building that's going to reduce the classrooms, reduce the number of participants, reduce the viability of providing the daycare. So we're just looking to have a conversation about that and try to better understand. We understand what the code says, but we're looking at the practicality of it. These aren't going to be spaces that are open to the public, because this is a daycare facility. So, parents just aren't going to get behind that, right? That anybody can come in off the street and have access to the building. So just trying to better understand if there's an opportunity for us to provide these lockers, perhaps even provide, I've seen a lot of provisions now for bike shelters where, you've got the lockers, you've got the bike racks, and there's a little bit of a shelter that's above it. And if that would be some sort of compromise that we could get to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose of that language in the code, which is pretty specific, that lockers don't satisfy the long-term parking.
100%.
I'm open to suggestions on that, but it does need to be more than a locker. Exactly how, I think, give us some ideas on how that could be accomplished.
Okay.
An external building that, has access or some sort of bike cage that's covered. But yeah, the lockers just don't satisfy the code.
So is it based on the code, we have to have some sort of structure, with a shelter that's over top of this? I mean, I guess quite honestly, I understand it in residential, applications. You've got a parking garage, you've got other amenities, and it's terrific to incorporate that into the amenities, which is, just all part of the program. It's going to be interesting watching as we do this for these retail spaces and daycares and things like that. So we'll just have to look at it. But what I'm hearing is we either have to accommodate it inside the building or we have to find some other location to put a structure on site. And there's not an opportunity to just maybe provide some shelter above that would provide, again, if it's a daycare employee, whether it be a bike rack or a bike locker, they're getting that benefit of that. They're not changing facilities or showers, right? So they would be able to come in and utilize the bathrooms that are inside the facility. So it feels like the whole package, the intent is there. But, this site, and I can provide an exhibit. This site is riddled with easements and things like that. This is the proverbial hole in the donut. If you look back at the original preliminary plan, we had a color-coded exhibit that showed all the easements for the site. So we can evaluate. It's going to be tricky to do. And not sure losing students is going to be. It seems a little counter to me. We'll look at it.
Okay. Segueing just for a second. There's one thing that looks inordinately benign, but poses a problem, and that is on the west side where the playground is located. The architects have designed overhangs for shade and the like over there. They comply with all the relevant licensing requirements that are imposed for operating a child care facility. One of the things that the notion of having trees sort of buffering on the outside next to that fence, it sounds really great, but I learned that it's a liability for the operation of the child care facility because things fall out of the trees and these little guys are prone to pick them up and eat them or things like that. And so they don't want trees near the play area. It is something that we'll have to swing back, but it is something that I thought, okay, that makes sense. But I was educated by the fact that that's actually hazardous to the kids in the playground. So we are going to have to circle back to that point. So, but apart from that, I covered or highlighted questions that we had, and we will most definitely get back to you and see if we can't catch you next week for a work session. That'd be great. We'll talk with the team and see when's a good time. And can we come back here, or do you want to just do it virtually? We could probably just do it virtually, I suppose. Whatever. What do you typically like to do?
I believe it's typically virtual.
Virtual? Okay.
Yeah, you can just log in.
Okay.
the parking, I just want to understand staff's perspective on the overall parking. This was, when it came in originally on the original site plan, it was all kind of one development. So we've tabulated the parking based on all of the uses. Are you, in the comments, it sounds like we're potentially looking to see that each of the lots stands on its own? Did I misinterpret that? And then I had a question with existing parking. Because of the situation, we've eliminated some parking as we've needed to accommodate fire access and other things. But we are still slightly over the maximum in the code. We can get rid of spaces. We've got, approval to do that. But we only really control those that are within our property that we're acquiring. So there's a bit of a question on how we do that. So for instance, when I create this parking exhibit, which I'll have done for our work session, we have EV spaces and other things like that. Because it's a shared environment, are we needing to just now put those spaces on our lot? Which we can do, we just want to know if that's what we need to do. Or can they be, because this is a shared development, is it okay to do them like we've done?
Well, and let me interject one other aspect of that to your question. We'd like to know what your position is on that, and then it may give us some flexibility because we also then would have to go back to the other owners and get their approval because of this contract called a reciprocal easement agreement for parking. We'd be interested in your feedback on that.
Sure, and we can talk about this more next week. Neil is giving me the hook here to say we're over time, so I'll take the last word on that and just say, I think we need a little bit more information on the overall parking about how it's being met on the site, and this particular site, I think, needs to demonstrate that it's either meeting it all within its lot, within the parcel, or it has an off-site agreement, basically, that if things were to develop around it, it wouldn't be left not meeting the parking requirements.
We do meet it for our lot on the lot, so that's not an issue. It's just a matter of the overall and what staff's position is on. If you're over an existing condition like this, you end up actually having to lose parking spaces, and that becomes an operational issue for the other tenants.
No, you're allowed to go above the maximum per the code.
And then do we need to get a specific waiver variance for that? Do we need to write that in?
No, just as long as it's signed as public.
Signed as public.
Basically available to anybody.
It is available, okay. But do we have to physically put signs up?
You would have to put the signs up, yeah.
On all of those spaces?
You could pick the spaces that are above the parking.
Just the ones that are above 10?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And really, two things really quick. I know we're over. There's bicycle parking guidelines that I can send your way if you want to look at that to talk about the long-term parking.
I've read them. I don't disagree. I'm just trying to grapple with the reality of a daycare. And, are these specifically for employees, or is this open to the public? Because it's
geared towards employees. That's the goal of the long-term parking in this case. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up, I know DOT is still reviewing the TIS, but there are some concerns with the speeds on Stedwick Road. And so I'll be talking more with DOT, and I'll follow up with you. But there may need to be some sort of treatment to slow down speeds on Stedwick.
So we've already got that mid-block choker. Is that not?
The speed study showed well above the posted speed. So.
So, I want to add to that as well. This is Deepak with DOT. Regarding the speed study, we would like to know where the location of the speed study was done. So that's something we're looking for as well.
Say that again one time, please.
So the location of the speed study, where exactly the location?
Speed study.
Yeah.
There's a map in the TIS, but it's a little unclear exactly where the tube was set.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
in for Christina Sorrento, who's out of the office, and we'll be ready to start the next item in a minute. We're just waiting on a couple of people. The next thing up is 12700 Trevilla Road. Be on that in just a minute. Oh, Patrick's online. Patrick, are you staying online or are you coming down here to the room? Good morning, everyone. I think everyone's here now. So this is DRC for 12700 Trevilla Road in Up County. And we have the Up County team here.
Hi, everyone. This is Alexandra, the lead reviewer and the design reviewer for this application. So from our review, the main comments we have are regarding transportation issues, such as the right-of-way, the proposed frontage, as well as some design comments regarding the cul-de-sac and its sidewalk. And that's primarily it. But I would love to hear more from the applicant about what questions you have on our comments and review.
Hi, this is Jeff Lewis with Site Solutions. Yeah, did go over the comments. We did we did have this through a concept plan review. One of the comments was pertaining to the cul-de-sac and trying to do something a little bit not standard, which we tried to do a little bit different shape. There's also some talk previously about trying to do something in the center that might attract the community there. And just wanted to make sure we're all on board on what we're going to do with that. As I did see, there's some transportation comments to take everything out of there. But just wanted to see where we're at on your side from what we can do in there.
From our perspective, we appreciate having a green space there. However, some of the issues is having it as an HOA parcel is not going to work. But we would like to see future plantings there to make it an appeasing space for residents.
Is it something that we could possibly maybe get a couple of benches or something like that?
The planning team would be okay with that.
Yeah, Alex, if I can add, I think we were suggesting maybe a maintenance and liability agreement, since that cannot be an HOA parcel, that would be public right away. And we would suggest maintenance and liability agreement to have those elements, those amenities incorporated in the cul-de-sac.
I mean, that's fine on our end if everybody can agree on that. I mean, we were looking, I mean, I mean, the owner is looking to make this a nice community, so having that space in the center there, obviously, it's not a huge area, but there is pedestrian facilities all around, and it could be a nice little small gathering area for people.
Yeah, we think so. And we appreciate that you considered that in your design.
Did you want to share your sketch?
Yeah, it's our understanding, DOT, maybe DPS right-of-way permitting has some concerns about that. We're happy to, work with them through that. We would love to see that space programmed if it's, going to be a public road and in the right-of-way. We understand that some type of agreement may be necessary. So definitely willing to work with you and our sister agencies to make that happen.
Okay, that sounds good.
I believe this is a similar treatment as other applications that have come through the DRC meeting, and we have worked through. I think Mid-County had at least 2 examples where this was done. So we were hoping to also draw from what we learned with those other examples and use it here same way. Alex, I'll turn it back to you so that you can explain this.
Sure. So this is the design concept that we uploaded for you, just as reference, such as we made edits to some of the housing or the home configurations and how they face the street and the cul-de-sac. And so if you have any questions on this, and we'd also like to see some changes to the lead walk. And we're hoping to see some pretty great landscaping to make this a really appeasing space for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the owner is interested in providing a very nice area. He, in fact, he's hired an urban landscape architect to take a look at kind of the overall concept for the street as well as all the lots. So in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we can get something to you to kind of show what we're thinking about as well. I do,
Yeah,
this property obviously was a horse farm, so there is, other than around the perimeter, there's really not many trees on the entire site. So we definitely do want to try to enhance it.
Great, thank you for that.
I did have one question about the lead walk comment. I don't think I've seen that one before. Where's that coming from, or what's that based on?
So we're trying to think about how residents would use these driveway spaces. And ideally, if they're having guests come to the home, the guests are not going to park in the garage like the residents. And if residents park in the garage, then they don't really need a lead walk. They're just going to enter the house through the garage. And so it makes sense to us that people visiting the homes will likely park onto these long driveways. And then it'll just make it easier for them to access the house from there.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any more questions?
Hey, Jeff. Mark
yeah.
Etheridge, real quick. I know we haven't. Have you submitted the concept for this yet? Has that actually come in? Okay.
Yes.
I think one of the big hurdles you have is you're going to have to provide full storm water for this subdivision for us to be able to support it.
Right.
And that driveway coming in doesn't have a lot of room to work. So just be aware of that. That's one of the biggest hurdles. I think, on lot, we could probably get a lot of that control and assume that we're going to be able to make it work because we're not looking at exact standards and house footprints for those houses at this point. But the road is going to be this way, and we do need to see full storm water on that, especially for that road. Just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, obviously the lots, I think mostly we're looking at dry wells for the most part. The road, we were having the grass swale. I think it was a combination of grass swale and a little bit of bioswale. And we were able to get full control off of it.
Okay. If you can fit everything else in and still make it work, that's great. Just want to throw that out there while we're talking at this early stage.
Yep.
Thanks.
Wasn't easy, but yeah, it worked.
It was not supposed to be easy.
That's true. Well, it'd be nice sometimes. One question along the frontage, and I know this came up at the concept plan about the bike path, which is shown on the master plan. There was a comment on the concept plan that there may be the provision to apply for a waiver on that. I mean, is that an option or is that a consideration?
Not, sorry, this is Chris Van Oster with Transportation. Not for the bike path, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anything else?
There's some, DOT had a bunch of comments, questions and whatnot, but I'll have to get with them on a one-on-one to kind of get some clarifications and stuff. It's a little bit probably more involved than we can discuss here.
Okay. Yeah,
But,
the additional coordination would be great.
Yeah.
If we have time now, do you want to cover at least some of the questions since we're all here on the call anyways?
I could go over a couple of things. One had to do the width of the roadway. You know, I think we showed it at 20 feet. They were saying 21, which I guess is more the standard for the neighborhood street that I guess this is considered. I thought, and I'm not going to say I'm 100% expert on the complete streets, but when we had an open section road with a shoulder, that it could be at 20 feet. At 21 was more with curb and gutter, but that might be one question. I know if we can get that answered.
Yeah, good morning. This is Brenda with DOT. Per complete streets, it should be a 21 feet pavement width.
Okay. Even with the grass shoulder?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some other technical comments, regarding some of the drainage and storm drainage, the existing culvert.
Yeah, we can talk. We can have a meeting. I know your storm drain. I had a bunch of questions on that, so we can get together this week.
So yeah, we can kind of meet on that and just kind of go over everything.
Okay. Yeah, the same thing with the road grade design as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a relatively flat road grade, so I don't think there's going to be any issues. But,
yeah, I think it's more as in the information that was provided.
Right. And again, this is just preliminary. I mean, we'll be coming in with a final street grade too, so.
That's correct.
But yeah, I mean, I think other than that, I don't know if there was anything which would specifically affect or drastically affect the overall project, at least the layout. I don't know if there was any other comments or questions or anything anybody had that didn't show up on what was sent out.
Before we move on, I want to check with DPS right-of-way. Did you see any issues with the proposed design concept that we had sent to the applicant? And I can pull that up again.
You're on mute, but whatever you're saying, Sam, is very important to us.
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Yeah, I mean, the concept that you had is fine as long as we implement what we just discussed. That section will be landscaped, which will be maintained by an HOA because DOT does not maintain anything that's non-standard as far as landscaping. So. And as long as we remove the designation of that little area as HOA. And beside that, that concept could be fine as long as we make sure those trees are not going to cause any sight distance issue or safety issues and meet the road code requirements. So I think we should be in a good shape.
Okay, and I think that's kind of what we were getting at. We'd love to see, well, I'm sorry, Alex, you go ahead. I just jumped in. But I think we're going to go to the landscape plan and making sure that we get everything out here, landscaping, stormwater facilities, any streetscape treatments, et cetera, just so it's very clear in the next submittal, so that with this direction in mind, and then we can further that conversation of that space and how it looks.
Exactly.
Sorry for jumping in, Alex. Turn it back to you.
No, that's fine. That sounds good.
I would think, obviously any trees within the right of way is going to be DOT standard trees. Anything outside that falls on the lots would be per the lot owner. I don't know, as far as getting an HOA involved and trying to maintain a tree on a private lot might be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, we have discussed this before with our other sister agencies, and as you know very well, DOT only maintains standard items. So as long as we keep everything as standard species, street trees, plain grass, all those stuff can be easily maintained by DOT. But we introduce anything non-standard, then it becomes somebody's responsibility to maintain.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, Jeff and Sam, I think this is a great discussion, and I think we would like to be in the loop as you continue the discussion about the landscape plan and the trees, whether they're on private property or whether they are on the public right of way, just so that we can achieve something similar to what we see here in the sketch, which is the lead-in road as and with as many street trees as possible, lined on both sides, potentially with a double row of trees. I think that was sort of the thought and the vision, and we are here to work with you as much as possible, or as much as.
Hi, Sandra. This is Atik. I just wanted to add a comment that Sam just mentioned. The island is within the public right of way. It's not a private section that is within the middle of the roadway or the right of way. We do not support that to be private. If it's a standard island, we will maintain it. County will maintain it. But if they introduce anything non-standard, trees or things like that, that needs to be somebody who has to maintain it. Just want to make sure that island is not private.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's consistent with what we said also.
Great.
We're okay with that.
Okay, thanks.
Other than that, I don't think there's really any other questions that we had.
Okay, great. We look forward to seeing your resubmission and any landscape plan that you can provide for us.
Okay, we will do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is item 4 on DRC, Glad Hill Farm. I think we have the applicant online and county folks are just getting ready, so we're going to start in another minute or so. Okay, we're ready to start Glad Hill Farm. Josh Penn is here with Up County, so he'll be starting. Okay, your screen is
Not the one I have up though.
All right, I'm sorry, hold on a second. We got a technical thing going on here.
There we go. Hello, we have a administrative subdivision for a 3-lot subdivision in the AR zone. Looks like we're creating 3 lots and a farm remainder. The biggest issues that we had were making sure that well and septic were adequate and in the right locations, and the fact that we have 3 lots that are all larger in size. One is over 5 acres, which will push this admin to the planning board. Instead of being a true admin subdivision, if anything is over 5 acres. Additionally, staff is going to request that all lots be shrank to at least 3 acres in size if possible while accommodating well and septic. With that, I just open it up to the floor if there's any questions from the applicant or from any of the other members here today.
Hi, Josh. Dave McKee, Banning Associates. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. Thanks for the comments. Looked them over and certainly understand everything that you've said there. The one thing about the 5 acres, I was thinking that initially that if we had an average of 5 acres, we could avoid the planning board, but I see that that's not the case. So we'll certainly adjust that lot at least to get down below that threshold. So I think we would be able to avoid that hearing requirement. The lot sizes themselves, I mean, you do see the septic areas of the well sites and things on the plan. Perk tests are all done and everything that's been done in those locations for quite some time. And we're still working through getting those approved, but assuming that they stay where they're shown, I mean, the lots are kind of arranged around them and also around what we think would be good home sites. And the final thing, which kind of led to the lot sizes, was just trying to create a perimeter around all 3 lots that would make for easy farming around the lots. But I do see some chance of being able to shrink those down some, probably not down to 3 acres, but maybe somewhere, between a 3 and a 5, that we have right now. So we'll work towards that, I would think, and get back to you with an update on that for sure.
That's gonna be kind of the major position here because staff is going to push for the maximum retention of the farmland and the lot sizes being minimum. Generally, we do say 3 acres is kind of the max size we like, unless you're going up to 18 plus acres for lot sizes, which can be independent farm sites. So work with it, tell me what you can, and we'll work through it together.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Also regarding the flag lots, I saw the comment there about the flag lots, and I understand, what we need to do there, and I guess we'll provide some written justification for that part of it. Does that make sense?
Sounds good. Like I said, they just meet the technical definition. We understand what you're doing here. It's the farm area. You're trying to put them all together and keep the frontage along the roadway more agricultural in nature. So.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. We have some fire department comments to address, and primarily that is going to result in us taking what we show for the driveway to a 20-foot wide section all the way up to where it would stop being a shared driveway. So I think I understand that may have been discussed between staff earlier at the pre-DRC. So right now we're showing a 14-foot driveway with some pull-offs. And I think the goal here is going to be to change that to 20 feet all the way up to the turnaround there. And so that'll be a change we'll be making on the plan. And whatever else we need to do there to get that fire department approval. Any feedback from DOT regarding the road section that we have on the plan, or what we show is we show some minor improvements, minor widening and a shoulder improvement. Is that consistent with what DOT is looking for?
Yeah, that's consistent with what we're looking for. This is Brenda with DOT.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. I think that's it. We have stormwater management comments to address, so we'll work on getting the concept approved, and we'll work on getting well and septic approved, and we'll work on getting the fire department matters taken care of, Josh, and then we'll come back to you for another review.
And Dave, I think I might have missed it. If I did, I'll apologize for that. But if you haven't included it, a statement about the density on the property. I went through and I did the research myself. It looks like there's plenty of density for the houses. But if you just want to make a statement saying there's X number of density left, and this uses X number of those units.
Got it. We'll do that. I think that's it. I mean, anything regarding the schedule that we should talk about, or we can catch up on that later?
Pretty straightforward. As soon as you're ready, we'll start writing the report. But yeah, since if you get it below all 3 lots below 5 acres, then it does not require a trip to the planning board.
Yep. Very good. Sounds good. Everything good on our end here.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Well, Neil, it's back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. And for anyone sticking around, the next item Next DRC item, it's a concept plan for Brinklow in Up County. Is the applicant on the line?
Hey, good morning. This is Russell Reese with Wiles Mensch for the applicants. There are applicant reps on the call as well, Shabir and Amar and Huzefa.
Excellent, very good. Okay, and Mark Beal is here from Up County, and he'll get us started.
Good morning, everyone. Mark Beal, zoning planner, Up County. Today we have concept plan for an admin subdivision for Brinklow. It's an existing 3-acre parcel. Looking to go through the admin subdivision process to get it as a recorded lot. This is the applicant's time to ask any questions. Looks like we're putting in a new single-family house and a small classroom area. Applicant team, it's your meeting. Any questions you have?
Thanks, Mark. And we spoke earlier this morning, so you've already answered most of the critical stuff for me. I guess a couple things. In looking through staff comments, there was a specific mention of the orientation of the house and classroom facility as they would prefer them to be oriented more towards the road. Now, the applicant reps can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are oriented as the mosque is towards Mecca right now, and I think they would prefer to keep it this way. And I guess one of my questions would be if we were to meet the idea of the master plan by providing some additional screening, which was one of the options mentioned in staff comments, what is the vehicle for that? Can we address that just on the admin sub-plan, or is that going to generate the need for like a landscape plan to be reviewed?
Jamie, you want to?
Well, I can only just mention that the master plan stresses over and over again this rural view from New Hampshire Avenue. And so the orientation of the buildings isn't crucial, but somehow making it just look a little bit more like what the master plan envisioned as a rural setting. And I was thinking maybe just some more screening in front of the mosque itself might help because of the way that curve, if you're coming south there, it's already kind of doesn't look that rural and rustic as the master plan envisioned. So just whatever can be done to help that would be very helpful for whoever has to make the master plan finding that it's in substantial conformance with the master plan.
Okay. But I guess my technical question would be, or procedural question would be, would that screening or additional planting, would it be being shown on the admin subplan itself be adequate to serve that purpose?
Does anyone else on the Up County team know procedurally what would be the best way to approach that?
Yeah, I would say we can just include it as part of review of the admin subdivision, put it on the plans there. As we're going through it, if we have any kind of forest conservation requirements that require any plantings, I didn't have a plan in front of me, so I couldn't get to the forest conservation requirements. But if there are any forest conservation planting requirements or anything, maybe we can show them on the forest conservation plan and kind of work together to achieve both.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
right.
Actually, this parcel prior to this had a tree safe plan approved for it. I mean, that was back in 2010, though. It's not valid anymore. So I guess we'll have to check with environmental and see. I'm sure we'd have to get an updated NRI and either an exemption or another tree safe plan filed for this one. Okay.
If I can note one thing is that we did have the Montgomery County plant a bunch of trees in and around the front and the side area. I don't know if that helps, but that is something that we I think we got like a grant from Montgomery County for that purpose.
Oh, was that in front of and around the side of the mosque?
Yep, and both parcels. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
maybe
if you show that on the plan, then it might be enough. I know it's a tough master plan conformance item to meet given the use and the existing condition as it is, but the master plan just goes over and over and over again about how important it is to preserve these rural views. And so whatever can be done to provide that screening to be more in line with what the rest of that part of the county looks like.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess the other kind of issue of what I saw that could have some significance was the roadway improvement requirements or suggestion thereof for bike lane addition or a bikeable shoulder, I think was the way it was expressed. Is this well, first of all, is there a county plan that depicts the bike lane they want to see in this area? Is anybody aware of that?
Hi, Russ. This is Deepak with DOT. It's a state highway. So state maintains that, and also the master plan requires bikeable shoulders. So in order to comply with the master plan, we'll have to work with state highway and parking planning to implement that bikeable shoulders.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be working with them anyway to do the dedication up there. So we'll explore that. All right. And then I guess I'll ask if any of the applicant reps have any additional questions. I think mine are answered for now.
None from me. I don't know if Shabir, Omar, if you guys have questions.
Yeah, I think the two or the three main things that were on my mind are already answered and we discussed it. So I'm good too. Thank you.
Okay. And then I guess just to wrap it up, can I assume that we can move forward with the required septic testing just based on this concept plan? Or do we have to await the submission of a admin subplan before we could schedule testing?
This is Heidi with Well and Septic. So you would need to apply to DPS separately for water table and perk tests. I don't know if there's supporting water table tests here, but you may do that ahead of your submission for the administrative subdivision.
Okay, great. Yeah, because that may, it may make the whole thing moot. So we need to check that out first. All right, Mark, I think that's all the questions that I had.
Sounds good. Appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, our pleasure. And applicant folks, I will follow up with you guys in a few minutes, okay?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you all.
Thank you all.
last DRC item for today. It's first edition, Section 2 Bradley Hills concept plan in Down County, and we have some Down County folks here in the room and applicant representative here, so I think we're ready to go. So it's all you.
I'm Grace. I'm the lead reviewer for your concept plan. I think the comments were pretty straightforward that you saw. I'm just gonna like briefly touch on some of the interagency ones. But overall, I think, this is a pretty straightforward subdivision. So just for the agency comments, fire and rescue plan will be required, and Marie put in some notes as to the details of what should be located or put on that plan at the time of subdivision review. From DPS zoning, there were a couple comments. The plan does show an EBL, and thank you for doing your homework that it applies, but the calculations I think are a little premature. So if you could just remove those, and I can send you an example of a data table that shows what we would really like to see as like EBL applies and the footnotes for building permit review. And then there was also a comment about confirming the surface parking requirements in the front and side yard. And then for subdivision review, as you may already understand, this qualifies for an administrative subdivision review, which is a shorter review period than your typical preliminary plan. It's 90 days, and if we do not receive any opposition or if there's no other major concerns, the director can approve. If there are any of those issues, then we would take it to the planning board for approval. For environmental, this is located within the Bethesda Chevy Chase master plan, and that master plan has several recommendations for preservation of trees and limiting grading where possible. So this proposal will likely qualify for forest conservation exemption, and on the exemption exhibit that you'll need to submit, make sure you properly show the steep slopes and the specimen trees that are located on the site. And we also advised submitting the stormwater concept plan earlier. There were some concerns that were raised by DPS Stormwater about the limited locations for stormwater, particularly on Lot 2. While that's not required for the admin approval, we do suggest putting that in earlier than later. And then lastly, for transportation, the subdivision must show the frontage improvements on Goldsboro Road, and this likely will not qualify for the fee in lieu payment for de minimis improvements, and we'll need to construct those improvements.
So my name is Rich Ingram, CPJ. I only have a couple questions really. One on what you just brought up about the de minimis payment and the calculation that was quoted in here. It appears that the site has a linear frontage of 77 feet total for proposed 2 lots. Just looking to clarify that 77 feet.
It's possible I typed it in wrong, but like if you have a different linear foot, I'm happy to plug that into our formula and see if it changes. Hi, Katie. Nice to meet you. Sorry. Can you mind creating for the record? I do the transportation review.
Perfect.
My pleasure.
No, the frontage was, 127 for one and 143 for the other. That's why I was wondering where the 77.
Yeah, 77 doesn't sound right.
Doesn't sound right?
Nope.
Just wanted to confirm that I wasn't missing something that is taken some other way.
Yeah, let me take a look at that. It still may be the case. It's pretty rare that we get the de minimis payment as an option, but let's plug it in.
Just wanted to confirm.
My pleasure.
The only other one, Marco, I know you had some comments about the trees and the steep slopes. We're aware of all of that. We haven't actually done a survey of the property yet to see where the walls are, the ownership, the exact steep slopes. Everything's based on GIS just for this concept layout. So we will take all into consideration. The note about the stream across the road there, right, is a concrete, call it drainage way, about 40 feet. I know we'll work all that throughout the NRI and making sure it's not a stream. But if you had anything you wanted to, do you feel it's a stream?
It was interesting that it was mapped as such on the.
I've had that on other issues with GIS from apartment planning.
I mean, I'd say it's likely that it isn't, but perhaps in the spring it could have flows independent of a rain event. So we just want to confirm that. It's unlikely that it's a stream, but there's a chance that it could be.
Understood. And then the only other one I had was also one of your comments related to the large retaining wall with the offsite lots. I guess that's just, you want to make sure that it's either our wall or their wall. If it's their wall, we do have an access easement for them to maintain that wall?
Yeah, and that's more of a suggestion. Well, certainly you need to locate the wall for the submission requirements, and it'd be helpful to know where it lies and who's responsible for maintaining it. But it'd be a good idea to have an access easement, and I just put that out as a
Just again, one
suggestion.
clarify, make sure I wasn't missing something.
And I guess it also could affect how the stormwater looks, because you would have, like, say, stormwater management easements and such. So just to keep that in mind, that someone may someday have to get back there to work on that wall.
Other than that, I really don't have anything. Like you said, the comments are pretty straightforward. I think we're going to talk to the client. They're going to pull the trigger and move forward with the ad sub plan. So get things moving. We will be putting together a memo, basically, with the comments again. And I think with that, we'll confirm the frontage distance. Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something on the calculation.
Nope. Sounds like probably I was.
That's all I got.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay,
Hey, I just have one question. This is Paul Mortensen. I have one question. Do we need to have the 20-foot width from the street all the way into the site on each of these driveways? Can we have it narrower?
Yeah, no, we can. That's the maximum that DPS will allow for residential driveway, but we would certainly encourage closer to like 12 or 14.
Yeah, we were showing currently 18 and 20, I think.
Yeah.
Entrances.
I mean, even if you could get it down to the 12 at the street till maybe past the PUE on site, so that it looks a lot narrower along the street frontage, that would be great.
Yeah, especially since there's going to be a shared use path that goes across the front.
Yep.
Did you see that in my comments? You saw that in my comments, yeah? Okay, good. I was having a panic, like, did I not include
Yeah, we're actually debating. I mean, right now there are 2 entrances there. It's a circular driveway, and if we had to, each property could utilize the existing entrance location. There's only, I think, maybe 1 or 2 public right-of-way trees out here. But
Hey guys, if you share a driveway, you trigger fire department access, so be careful about that.
No, good point. I think what you're saying is using the same apron entrances, but they would be 2 distinct and separate driveways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But nope, you should always chime in.
do not doing a shared driveway situation. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you have any questions about like the frontage improvements as you finalize them, let me know. Happy to work with you.
Perfect.
Thank you. I hadn't seen the comments, so I just wanted to make sure.
Good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.